to you from underneath a peach blossom. It's time for an episode of Be Awesome. Find positivity throughout your life and work. Just like our mascot rooster, Steve the Jerk.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Be Awesome podcast. This is another exciting one. As listeners know, I have a very special honor and opportunity to travel around the country. And every once in a while, something just amazing, extraordinary happens. I get an opportunity of a once in a lifetime. And this goes back about a year and a half ago. I was sitting at a professional development and meeting folks that were learning about getting a facility manager's core certification. And I met this young man who also happens to have the same name as Josh. And we ended up talking, and on our conversation, I learned some really fascinating things about him personally, where he was the only educator for children in the detention waiting to go to court, have done things to get themselves into trouble for grades 2 through 12, and transitioned to become a facility professional. And then he just nonchalantly says, and my dad's got an elk farm. And I said, I don't know what the heck an elk farm is. And an elk farm is exactly what you would think it is. It is a farm that has elk, and elk are massive. They're like, in some cases, 800 pounds or more. And we'll get into this conversation, but literally knew this young man for all of an hour and a half, and I invited myself to this property. I said, I am coming to see this elk farm because I need to see it with my two eyes. And lo and behold, last November, Paul Anastasia and I went out to Missouri, and we got to go to Howard Hoehn and family's elk farm, and it was everything I wanted it to be, and then some. So I wanted to have Mr. Hoehn on this podcast to talk about that, but there's a lot more we're going to dig into because this guy is he's into everything. He is exactly what you would want for someone in your community that lives, breathes, and loves where he lives. So, Mr. Hoehn, Howard Hoehn, welcome to the podcast. This is his first podcast, so we got to be easy on him, Adam. Let's get him in gradually here. So, welcome, sir, to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Well, my pleasure. And so we have to tell everyone, tell us a little bit. Let's get into the elk farm, and then we're going to get into all the other stuff. But share with everybody how the elk farm became what it is today, and of course, we have to talk about the fan favorite and obviously my favorite, Lisa the elk. So share that if you don't mind.
Well, I raised cattle all my life, and I was sitting on the deck one day looking down in the pasture, and I told my wife, I said, we could be sitting here looking at deer, or we could be looking at elk. She looked at me and said, "So what's stopping you?" I said, "Well, nothing now." So it started then. I went up into Iowa and bought 6 cows. They were actually heifers, and then I bought a bull after that, and had built some fence and had some pasture ready for them. And I started out with that. It took 3 years, of course, to get the first calf, and I now have a herd of 40, and they're this time of year they're about 6 weeks away from calving, and we're expecting 12 to 14 new calves on the property this spring.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the story of Lisa. Lisa was a little calf that was born, and mother wouldn't accept it. So we bottle fed Lisa for 12 weeks, and she thinks she's a human. She, as you can witness, she'll walk up to you, put your arm around her, and she's just as tame and gentle as can be. And she knows no other mother than me because I fed her all the time. And she's the first one to greet you when you walk through the gate. And when you go in to feed, she's always standing right by your side. And she's kind of a special elk.
Yeah. Well, it made my day because I had no idea what I was in for. I just thought, when I go to like a zoo and they'll have deer and they'll have goats and they'll have these, you pay, 50 cents and you get some feed and they eat out of your hand. And So when we were at the airport, I told Paul, I said, I'm going to ride an elk today. And I knew Paul was going to say, "You're crazy. You can't ride an elk. You can't get a saddle on it. You can't do any of this stuff." And it was because I wanted to get, we bet a nickel. Or a nickel or a dime. And, just to say that we're betting. And he says, "Well, I'll bet you a nickel, that you're not going to, pet an elk." Cause that was my backup. If I'm not going to ride, I says, "Well, then I'll just pet it." And I had no idea. And then you brought me into the pen with that big bull, like that. I mean, and there was nothing between he and I but you. And I'll never forget, I had known you all of 2 minutes, and I said, "Should we be in here?" And you just looked at me and said, "He's not going to mess with me." And he didn't. He just stood there. But I mean, you talk about, I mean, what do you weigh? 800 pounds?
Yeah, yeah. And the thing about it is Josh, is they're very docile when I'm in there with them,
Mm-hmm.
and don't get aggressive. However, in the rut, I have to carry bear spray in there with me
Yeah.
because they don't want you in there. They're going to try to run you out to get you away from their herd.
Yeah.
And but other times than that, uh, they're pretty calm unless you get them stirred up, and then they'll try to run through a fence somewhere. But they
Yeah.
are very wild, but they can be fed and managed.
Yeah. And to give everybody kind of a sense and a visual of this property, you have over 100 acres, but it's a more confined area for where the elk roam. And you've got a couple of different stations, obviously, that when they're in the rut, which is when they're in heat, when the females are in heat and the males are chasing them all around. You've got different areas for them. But
I've got a lot of different
you can
paddocks.
literally
Yes.
sit on your back deck or your back yard and stare
Mhm.
off into what seems like an endless field and just have these beautiful elk just wandering around like what you would think are almost free range because the space is so large. And they just walk around. And Lisa did. We took a side by side out to the area where all these elk were eating and doing. And Josh, I think you said, "Do you think Lisa's going to like these guys?" And Josh said, "I think Lisa, we're going to have a hard time getting Lisa out of the side by side." And we got there, and Lisa came right up, and it was amazing. It was one of the coolest experiences to have, what is typically a wild, large animal be so just that, like, literally nestles her head on your shoulder and just sits there. It's amazing.
The special time of year is in September and October when
Yeah,
the bulls are bugling, and I've got neighbors all around that'll come see me and go, "Hey, I heard your elk." I mean, from half a mile away, and
yeah.
but it's an exciting time when that happens.
How many elk farms are there? I mean, is there like a elk farm network of people that?
There's a Missouri Elk Farmers Association in Missouri,
Yeah.
and I think there are 15 of us right now that are involved in that. There's a
Hmm.
few more that are not in the program, but that means they just can't sell them, uh,
Hmm.
you know, and get rid of them off the farm. But I think there's 15 right now in Missouri.
Wow. And here I was thinking until I met Josh that there was no such a thing and didn't know it existed. And it was a cool place. Um, your property and I mean, this is Farmington, Missouri. And are you Farmington born and bred? Is that where?
I grew up in a little town just south of Farmington, but Doe Run,
Hmm.
and Doe Run was a small mining community, and I went to school there the first 6 years, and they voted to consolidate with Farmington, which
Hmm.
was only like 4 more miles away. And in 1966, they consolidated, and then I went to Farmington from the seventh grade to the 12th grade.
Hmm. And then your career, and this is the kind of I wanted to have you on about the elk, and then I went into I'm going to call it my dream man cave, but your garage, your shed, whatever you want to call it. I mean,
Mhm.
that is just a cool hangout spot. And my dog, by the way, is still chewing on that latest
Well,
antler
you,
that you have the world's best antlers for dogs of anyone. Like, you could sell those things for, God, you could ask whatever price you want, and if they were smart, they pay for it because it's the strongest I've ever seen. But you had pictures on the wall of
Mhm.
you had some pictures on the wall from when you were a coach. and
Hmm.
when you worked in the schools. And I think that that's a good segue for us to talk about is, your career wasn't farming, your financial career, and I think your total fulfillment of your career wasn't in farming. It was in educating and caring for kids.
No, right.
So tell,
I,
tell
uh,
us about that
I,
journey.
I went to school in Doe Run for 6 years, and we consolidated and went to Farmington. And I met some of the greatest teachers and administrators with my time there. And in fact, when I graduated from school, then I continued to pursue a degree in education and ended up going back there and teaching. And I did things like I taught some PE and some health, and then I got into being an athletic director and assistant principal to high school. And then I was middle school principal and then associate superintendent for 7 years when I finished my career. And then I retired and end up going back and getting on the school board. So with the 6 years that I went to school and 26 years I spent in the district, and I've been on the board 15 years. So 47 years I've been involved in the Farmington School District.
That's amazing. And we have listeners from all around the country, and a lot of people don't get an opportunity to visit the Midwest. A lot of folks just look at it as flyover states that live on the East Coast or the West Coast. And one of the things that's amazing for me, whether going to Campbell, Missouri, which is the peach capital of Missouri, which is a very small rural district,
Mhm.
or California, home of the Pintos. Some of these smaller districts and these rural districts, faculty members wear multiple hats, so it's not uncommon for an assistant superintendent to also be the food service coordinator and the director of operations and the student
Right.
transportation director. And and a lot of times it's trial by fire, right? You get thrown into these positions and these roles, these opportunities. Sometimes it's the shortest straw. Sometimes there's no straws. It's just there's a need and you step up. And one of the things that I've grown to love about the Midwest, I love where I live. I love the town that I'm in Massachusetts. I was born here, moved away for a little bit, and came back. But one of the things that I've really loved to see and experience is the sense of family and community in the Midwest. And Missouri is a big player in that. In just about any community, there's an enormous sense of family and care that's instilled that you see. And so 47 years, that's a heck of a run. You were a wrestling coach too, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I actually was assistant football coach and was defensive coordinator
Yeah.
for our football team. And then I was a wrestling coach for 6 years, and also was a baseball coach. We had
You got
we had
recognized for one or all of those, didn't you?
Yeah, we finished third in the state in baseball in state of Missouri in 1988, and of course we ended up playing a game in Busch Stadium, which was a big deal for us in the quarterfinals in 1984 in football. We lost that game, but it was an experience for the kids to be able to experience that. And let me just do a sidebar. It was an eye-opening thing for the whole community because we played on a grass field like everybody else did back in the 80s, and we we make the playoffs and find out we're going to be playing in Busch Stadium. We don't have any turf shoes. We
Yep.
don't have any shoes to wear in the dome. So
Mm-hmm.
we had our community people came together and purchased shoes for us, and we had a airplane pilot in the town that volunteered to fly to Arkansas to pick those shoes up. So that sense of community was just unbelievable at that time, and the
Yep.
town was standing on its ear because of what was happening, and it was a great thing for the community and the school.
Wow. And that was 1984.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just the interesting thing. Do you know uh George Toma? He's the sod
Na-
father.
yeah.
Yeah. he's been to every Super Bowl. I think he's over 80 now.
Yeah.
But he
Mhm.
was the number one turf or number one grass field
Mhm.
professional in all of professional sports, and he's right there, and he was taking care of all the Missouri and Kansas fields.
Mhm.
Those are when you're talking about turf, but
Yeah.
yeah, you don't think about that. Now everybody's got turf and nobody's got grass.
In 2005, when I was associate superintendent, um, I was given the task, and the town was behind this, and we sold spots to people, and they paid for us to have a turf field.
Yeah.
And I went to Texas, a couple trips down there, and took a look at how to build one. And we actually had a unique situation. Our football field was not level. Our track was. We were 7 feet low on the south end of our football field. So to put a
Wow.
turf field in, we had to bring in 800 tandem truckloads of dirt to fill that field to 8 inches below the track level before we could even think about putting the gravel down and the turf field.
Wow.
It was quite an undertaking.
Wow.
It,
That
it was the first high school turf field in the state of Missouri, outside of Kansas City and St. Louis.
wow.
And our community jumped behind that, and it was a great time.
How long did that field last? 2005 would be 21 years.
We returfed it in 14.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and it's the sun is not in favor of that. It kind of works on the fiber.
Well, there's a whole number of things and I'm not smart. I'm only smart enough to be dangerous in most of these things, but the life expectancy that's given by manufacturers or installers is typically based on what is considered average school use. And when you're
Mhm.
the first in the state of Missouri, everybody, I'm sure, wanted to use that field, and I'm sure that people used it after hours when it wasn't scheduled to be used, and so that wear and tear that
Yeah.
draws that life expectancy down dramatically. And it's not unexpected. It's not shared with most people when you install it, especially back 2005. It was still $1 million or $1.5 million a field. I mean, it was still
Yeah.
expensive
Well,
to do a field back then.
what we got into, I was trying to keep a nice grass surface on
Hmm.
that field, and I got with the groundskeeper at University of Missouri, Columbia, and
Hmm.
had him come down and visit with me. And I said, "Hey, I'm following your program. I'm doing everything." I said, "I can't grow grass." Well, he came down and visited with me, and he said, "Howard," he said, "you're doing everything right." He
Yeah.
said, "What's your problem?" We had one practice field and the game field. Well, we had PE out there, 3 or 4 classes every day on one
Yeah.
or both of those fields. We had the band out there every day marching. We
Yeah.
had a soccer team. We had JV football, varsity football, freshman football, all using those fields. He said, "You will never grow grass here. You don't have enough
Stressing it to
fields."
death. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have enough fields. He said, "You're just stomping it down." So that's when we got into looking at putting something in there that everybody could use, and anytime, because weather didn't create a problem unless it was raining or thundering at a time. But
Yeah.
it was a very positive thing, and the community jumped behind it, and that was really a neat thing to see.
Yeah. I got to tell you, Mizzou and Columbia, I mean, Columbia is Mizzou. And if you
Mhm.
don't believe it, fly into Columbia, Missouri. It's a small airport. It's like one gate.
Mhm.
The gate agent is also checking your bags and doing all, I mean, they do everything.
Mhm.
But one thing that's really interesting that no other airport has is when you're going to the bag claim and the belt turns on, the Mizzou fight song plays. So I
Mhm.
said, man, oh man, they got the whole run of the roost here.
Mhm.
Um, so, so so you do all this stuff. You go through just about every role you can go through and support your community and raise your family and have the dairy farm, and then you go to the elk farm and so this is kind of one of the things I want to talk about because I'll be honest with you, I've been struggling myself lately at I'm 50 and I look and see things that are happening And I say, man, I want to do something, right? Um, and I'm not in a position yet where I can, and this is, I think, where, a lot of us can say things, but not very few of us do things, right? And my say-do ratio is something I pride myself on. But what prompted you? You could have retired, you could have just done what you're doing, but at some point you decided, hey, I want to be in the school committee. I want to make a difference. I mean, what was your
Yeah. Yeah.
reason? What is your reason for
Well,
staying? And
the
what drove
district,
you?
the district was very, very good to me. Uh, and they promoted me and moved me along. And I got to see every aspect of the district, from
Hmm.
the elementaries and being in charge of building and grounds for 10 years. I knew everything about the district. Um,
Hmm.
so when I retired, I told my wife, I said, hey, I don't see a reason why I shouldn't give back here and get on the school board and or make an attempt to get on the school board and see if I can't help the district out. And I had people for several years going, well, isn't that hard for you? Well, no, it's not really hard for me because I experienced everything in the district in my
Hmm.
tenure. So it was kind of easy for me to be able to transition to that board seat and uh, and help kids.
Hmm.
And that's the whole thing. I had some tremendous teachers and administrators that guided me and helped me along the way. And probably one of the most meaningful jobs I had was a middle school principal, trying to help middle school kids grow up.
Hmm.
And through that, all kids are good kids, and they just get misguided and get out of the box every once in a while, out of the boundaries. And you just had to treat them like human beings with dignity and guide them along, and they'll come and they'll do what you ask them to do. And
Hmm.
when I realized that, I thought I got something here I can give back and help out. And for the last 15 years, I've been kid focused on taking
Hmm.
care of kids, and and God knows this in this time and age, that's a difficult situation because we've lost a lot of the family togetherness, and we have a lot of single parent homes out there, and kids have a lot of needs. But we are given the charge to educate everybody that comes to us,
Hmm.
and we have to find a way to get to every kid out there.
Yeah. I mean, you're hitting the nail on so many different heads of things that are fresh for me. I just did a wellness day talk with the fifth grade class in my town. And, I put a post on social media and I said, what a great opportunity. And people ask me all the time, like, why don't you do more work with kids? And I say, kids aren't broken. So, it says, I forget who said made the saying, but better to grow a child than fix a broken man. And so, our kids need that healthy guidance. They need that support. They need to understand the challenges with things like social media and a lot of stuff that you and I didn't have when we were
Right.
growing up. But they need hope is the number one thing. And when you said it perfectly, there's right now there's approximately 3 million children that enter school buildings every day that don't have hope at home. Some of them
Right.
don't have a home. Some of them
Right.
don't have they're food insecure. They don't have so much as a smile on the other end of anything outside of the school building. And so that's kind of where, you know, understanding the importance of all aspects of the education system, not just the education, but from when they get on a bus or from when they walk through that front door to when we let them go and they go back to wherever it is that they go, we want to make an environment where they want to come back and where
Yeah.
they're accepted and where they're cared for. And
Let,
I think that
let
the
me let
school,
me let me tell you a little
yeah.
situation here. When I was a middle school principal, I challenged the staff that they wanted to get after kids and be punitive towards them because they were unprepared.
Mhm.
So I challenged them and said, okay, let's find out why we're unprepared, why we're not bringing our homework in, or why we're not getting it done. Well, I had one little girl that I brought in and was talking to her, and I said, okay, just break down for me and tell me from when you left here yesterday after school, what was your evening like? Well, my mom picked me up and we went down to the local tavern. And I was trying to do my homework on the bar, but we didn't get out of there till about 10 o'clock. And it was so noisy and distracting, I couldn't concentrate, couldn't get it done. So she goes home at 10 o'clock, gets herself in bed. She's up the next morning. She's back at school into the routine. So we don't know what's going on out there a lot of times in those homes. And in situations like that, kids aren't going to be successful
Yeah.
unless we get to the root of the problem and fix that.
Yeah, we're making assumptions based on our lives and not based on their lives.
Correct.
And that's,
Correct.
one of the most important things that I encourage in my companies as well as in the education space is meeting people where they're at. And if
Yeah.
you don't know where they're at, we need to find out before we
Yeah.
make those assumptions, because
Yeah.
that child probably had the best of intentions and wanted to do better, because that child probably doesn't want to end up in a tavern every night.
Right. Right.
And that's pretty amazing. Um, so I know about school committees. I watch 20 to 30 school committee meetings a month. I lead a very exciting life. When my family goes to bed, my brain doesn't shut off, and I'll watch school
Hmm.
committee meetings. But for the sake of the audience that might not know, a school committee, unless Missouri is different from other parts of the country, it's a volunteer position.
Correct.
So, and you don't need to have any certification. You don't need to have a doctrine. You don't need to be anything other than a citizen in the community that wants to run for election of a seat, and you provide oversight and, I would say, bumpers for the school district to stay within, to make, and you help in making the best decisions possible on all aspects of running the school. Is that a fair?
Yeah, there is some board training that's mandatory in Missouri. That
Hmm.
when you're elected, you've got to go to so many hours
Hmm.
of training for that, but it's minimal. Uh, Basically, what we do is we hire superintendents, and that's our single employee,
Hmm.
and we also make board policies. Okay, so basically, we sit there, and the agenda is made up by the board president and the superintendent for each month, and then we go through the agenda and make decisions on hiring personnel and things of that nature. But basically, our job is to hire the superintendent and make policy.
Hmm. And how, you've been in the school committee for how long?
I've been on finishing my 15th year.
And how many superintendents have you had in the 15 years?
Seven.
Yeah,
No,
it's
I'm
about
sorry.
average.
In the 15 years,
Yeah.
no. In the 15 years, no. I've had three.
And you guys are doing better than average,
Yeah, I've
because
had
the
three.
average school district is under 2 years that they have
Yeah, and
that
that's
they
it's
retain a
getting
superintendent.
worse here now.
Yeah, yeah. And it's unfortunate because um, I make some interesting statements and nobody really calls me on them. But when you look at a school district, the school district is a business. It's just a different business from private sector. The business is, first of all, the product is our kids. I hate to say it
Hmm.
that way, but that's the output, right? That's
Right,
we
right.
get these kids, we get them for 12 years. They come into our space, we grow them, and then we put them on stage. We give them a diploma, and then they go off into the real world, right? Which is
Mm.
something no kid, every kid should want to stay a kid as long as possible, in my opinion, because the real
Yeah.
world is a very
Well,
interesting place.
you're,
Um,
you're right about it being a business. And what a lot of people forget is, I mean, we're a big business. In our town, we're probably the third largest employer.
yeah.
And we got a $45 million budget. And we're dealing with all taxpayer money. All
Hmm.
of our people in our district, we're using their money to produce that product.
Right. And that makes it hard on the customer, right? That makes it hard on you've got two things your customer, you're doing two things to your customer, i.e. taxpayer, resident, parent, doing two things that they don't like. One, you're charging them, and two, they have no control. They have to pay it,
Right.
and it's going to go up, and
Yeah.
that's in the form of taxes. Um, I'll tell you, the number one place of employment in Farmington should be the Catfish Kettle, because I don't know how that place is able to turn around business. They flip tables like nothing I've ever seen before. It's
Yeah.
all you can eat catfish. So
Mhm.
one of my new favorite places, if you're ever in Farmington, hit that place up. They get great lunch for you. But yeah, I mean, when you look at it from that aspect, third highest employer in the community, you're obviously going to have a lot of community that are employed by you. They're going to have
Right.
a great feeling of ownership. That's one of the
Mhm.
greatest things about public servants, and that is a word, as that what you are as a public servant. You have a great deal of pride of ownership because the schools are the fabric of the community. The schools truly are, whether it's sports, whether it's band, whether it's anything, education, the after school events for kids that are being cared for, the local YMCA that uses the space. It's truly, and definitely in places like Farmington, it's even more so the fabric of the community because maybe there's less to do, or maybe there's just all these different sports that are offered, or whatever it is. Um, it's vital and important to communities, every community, and it's been a challenge these last couple of years, and that's why I'm excited to have you on here, is because I sit and I look at these things, and I have a software company, I have a company that I provide professional development and learning for operations teams and public school districts. I love the public education system and the people that I get to serve every day, and my other businesses. But I think that there's so much to schools today that people aren't paying attention to and are getting frustrated easily, like COVID, right?
Right.
Every school district in the country got funding, some level of funding for COVID to improve school environments. That's never happened in history. Like, people don't understand that there's never been essentially checks written and saying by the government to say, go improve the environment of these schools, and
Right.
also doing it during a virus that we had to be cognizant of, to not only try to improve the environment for the future, but also tackle the worry of today, which was, I don't want to get COVID, right? That money's gone. The struggle now is extremely real. We have strained budgets, we have burnout of employees, we have all of these things, and your superintendent and your team have to make some really difficult decisions. And so I sit here saying to myself, you know, man, someday I'd like to join the school committee. But then I sit and I look and see some of the things that are going on. I go, how do people stay, and why do people stay for 50? Like, have you ever been like, hey, I don't need to do this. I can just go look at the elk out back and smile every day.
Well, I haven't done that yet. I mean, I've always enjoyed my time there, and we've got a great board that I'm part of, and it's a good thing we're doing for kids. Um,
Hmm.
and but back to the ESSER funds and the money that was thrown at us, that was misunderstood from a lot of people because they thought we should have been putting that in salaries,
Hmm.
and compensating people. But
Hmm.
the problem when you increase salaries is that's perpetual.
Hmm.
If you give 500,000 this year for salaries, you've got to have that next year, and those ESSER funds weren't going to be there any longer. So we couldn't do that. Now we could make improvements to our facilities,
Well,
and we did that. But
yeah, well, ESSER also, it very specifically, there was a big gray area with ESSER funds, but there was a very clear statement in that, which is this money is to be used for one-time use,
Mhm,
which that gray area was, if you bought air purification systems, which everybody did,
mhm.
there was this thing called filters that needed to be changed. So the one-time purchase was the
Right,
filtration units.
right,
The non-one-time purchase was the filters, right? And so that
right.
it goes on the same way with salaries. I'm with you. But that was a huge point of contention, was giving people more money, and if you don't have that sustainable funding source, you can't do it.
Yeah, and what that also did, we were able to put some money back,
Hmm.
in reserves,
Hmm.
uh, and we were frugal with that. But then the ESSER funds go away, and money gets tight from the state. Now we're not getting as much per pupil that we normally do, and our enrollment's down some, so that hurts us. But then people are pointing fingers at you. Well, you got this money over here in reserve. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's for a rainy day when things are real bad.
Yeah.
And it's not that way now,
Yeah.
but
It's
what they
just
don't
sprinkling
understand,
right now. It's
yeah,
not it's not downpouring.
and what they have trouble understanding is that you just can't. just can't pull that money out and throw it into salaries because you'll be doing it every year and you'll be broke in 3 years.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think always having the checks and balances of how can we improve, I hate the saying do more with less. I think that that's a ridiculous statement. I think it's, again, I don't have people that debate me on my stupid theories of things, but telling people to do more with less would be to indicate that they're not doing the best that they can right now.
Yeah.
And so, what I challenge people to do is to do better. And sometimes doing better is just evaluating what we're doing now. Like, are there ways that we can improve the processes, the products, the services, the programs? Are there ways that we can improve that before we just throw money at something? Because anytime you just throw, and I work with I've always worked in startup businesses, so we never had money, right? So we couldn't throw money at anything.
Right. Right.
But I've always found that just throwing money at a problem is never a solution, right? So you have to look at all the other avenues and aspects of things before you finally say, all right, now we've got a rainy day. And that's a hard thing for people to grasp and wrap their heads around. Again, where the belief and it is that it's their money, right? It's their money that's funding all of this, and that gives them a voice. But I think that that's also the interesting thing, and the thing that part of why I wanted to have you on here is learning about, like, how does communication with a school committee as a resident look? Like, how often are people talking to you and asking you questions and looking to, you know how often are they looking to get insight and understanding opposed to complaining? And
Well, quite
yeah.
often you have questions about why we did this or that as a school board, but not that often. And it's like anything else. When things are going real well, you don't
Hmm.
hear a whole lot. But
Yeah.
when you hit a bump in the road and there's an issue, maybe it's a teacher issue that the bad apple or something, and they had to take some action there. Then everybody wants to get in there and give you some advice on what you
Yeah.
should be doing. But of course, there's always those decisions that have to be made in closed session, and it's just not, you just can't tell the public exactly what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the whole thing is you want to, you're bound to, HR policies when it comes to
Correct.
personnel. You're bound to,
Correct.
it's, I don't want to compare it to what's going on in the world right now, but I find it very interesting that everybody wants to know everything that's going on across, um, in regards to the military action that's happening.
Right.
I try to be sensitive because I know I have kids that listen to the podcast. So, but the military action that's happening, everybody wants to know and wants all the answers. And as much as we hate what's going on and how it's going on, to give all the information would be giving people that we
Mm.
don't want the information to be given
Right.
to.
Correct.
And I think it's one of those things everybody wants to be, and social media does this. Everybody wants to be the first person to be able to say that they know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily to help the problem or help with a solution. It's to be the first person to know, or to be the person that spoke up and got the intel or information of things, and that doesn't produce the result that you need. Um, you're a pretty laid back guy. I met you once in person. You're a very, very calm, very even keeled person that I've noticed. I could meet somebody and they'd be like, "No, you got them on an off day." But you seem like it to me it seems like you live your life with logic, right? And trying to stay. How hard is that?
At times it's difficult because I try to keep from showing frustration at times when I know things aren't going the way they should go.
Hmm.
Uh, and we'll have a staff member that's you know does something like you want to just say, what were you thinking? And
Hmm.
it frustrates you that you have a professional that's not thinking at that time and does something silly.
Hmm.
But that's a hard part that you but you gotta keep a poker face, and you have to be able to not let it be personal,
Hmm.
because it's something you got to handle and you got to take care of it. And you can never be a good school leader if you run from things. You've got
Hmm.
to take them head on and work it out. and in doing so, then the whole place is going to be better off for it. But it's
Hmm.
difficult in that time period when you're having to make those decisions. But you can sleep at night by making them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine, and again, that's so 15 years, you're talking, let's see, 10 years is 2016. So 2011. So you started the school committee on the tail end of the worst recession in history.
Yep, yep.
And that must have been an interesting time.
Well, I actually, talking back at that time, I bought an asphalt company. And if you know anything about asphalt, you lay that usually from April to October.
Yeah.
Well, I was smart enough to buy this asphalt company on January 1.
Yeah.
So I had employees and getting things ready to go and buying supplies and everything. I never turned a dime for 3 months. So, and the recession was there.
Yeah.
But anyway, but we get through it. We get through those things because you just got to make the right decisions, make smart decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you did that, and then you decided to join the school committee.
Yeah. Yeah.
And something people don't typically understand or know is that schools are the first to be impacted by a recession and the last to be out of a recession,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
It's almost a cycle that gives you like a very small window of opportunity, which is like 37 minutes.
Yeah.
Like schools are always the most heavily impacted, first to feel it, last to get
Right.
out of it, right? So even if we were feeling good and um 2013, 2014 was probably that kind of impact turnaround time. I can remember the challenges that we went through, and it's funny because people often say schools are recession proof, and there's a point to it as far as you don't typically see schools go out of business, especially public K-12 schools, but they're not recession proof because you have struggles, strains, layoffs that you have to do that you don't want to, and in a lot of cases the the level of service compared to the number of students. Like you have a student decline right now, and so if it was a private sector business, a decline in student enrollment is a decline in revenue. Your revenue opportunity is your students.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to make those difficult choices, and some of them are justified based on need, right? If you have less students, then you have less need of resources to support,
Yeah.
unless you're out of whack with your per student
Right. Ratio. Yeah.
ratio.
The state of Missouri is one of the worst states in Missouri as far as requiring schools to depend on their local effort.
Hmm.
We get a little bit of federal money and we get some state money, but nothing compared to other states in the country.
Yeah.
And they require you to survive on your local effort. Well, if you're in a recession, then people aren't buying the groceries and doing all the stuff for that local revenue to come in.
Right.
So you do take a hit for your tax base.
Right. Well, if you don't have the business
Yes.
to do that
Yeah.
tax base, then you're solely holding off on. And that is a rarity, by the way. Missouri is one of, if not the only state that the majority percentage of revenue is in local local taxes, basically
Yeah.
your property tax, your excise tax, your sales tax, your
Mhm.
local if you got hotels, your local
Right.
residency tax when you spend a night in a hotel room, which is very, very unique, because you I I I go back and forth. There's a part of me that feels like that's part of that family dynamic, right? You guys are
Mhm.
in it in your own little community of basically fundraising to take care of your needs and your services, and that's for your DPW and for your streets, roads, and everything, right? Is that covered in that too, or is that
Yeah.
okay? Yeah. Um, so you got an election coming up. You're going for another. How many years is this next?
Yeah.
How many years
Three
is
three
this?
years. 3 years.
Three
Yeah.
years.
You're elected in Missouri for a 3-year term.
Okay. And so you're in year 15. You got an election coming up. You're hoping to get another 3 years, and that's How do you just put signs in the yards, or you guys get full
Yeah,
on?
a lot of people, a lot of them are putting the signs in the yard. We have meet the candidates at several different places.
Mm-hmm.
We've got together and did a question and answer service or for the Republican Party and for the
Mm-hmm.
Democratic Party, even though we're nonpartisan
Mm-hmm.
as members here. And of course, we've had some meetings with the Labor Council
Mm-hmm.
and met with them and talked to them. I got endorsed by the Labor Council here in St. Francis County, which is a big plus. And so there's several forums that were held for us to be able to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But people are doing things such as podcasts, such as putting things on social media.
Mm-hmm. And then the vote happens on Tuesday next week.
Actually, early voting is here
Okay.
and has been for about 5 weeks, and people can walk in and vote early, and or can wait and vote on the 7th.
You know what? It used to be like that's like Black Friday isn't Black Friday anymore. Like the excitement of standing in line voting with all
Yeah,
your friends and everybody out
yeah,
there. Now it's
yeah,
like, well, you can come in whenever you want. It's like
yeah.
order your
One
pizza when you're hungry.
one of the things here that's happened to us, we have so many precincts that are out in the local areas,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we've consolidated since '66. I think we've consolidated 6 different small districts that have
Mm-hmm.
combined and come into Farmington, and all
Mm-hmm.
those little towns around us have those polling places. Well,
Mm-hmm.
this year they made a decision they're going to not open all those places because
Mm-hmm.
what they are faced with is um, they had to have a voting machine in Braille for people that were sight impaired.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those are like $3,700 a machine. So they were going to have to put one of those in all the polling places. So what they've done here now is they just have basically 4 polling places uh,
Mm-hmm.
that they have for all the residents. So if you live in Kaufman, which is 15 miles away, you've got to come in close to Farmington to vote.
How big is that area square mileage wise that
200,
farming
uh, the Farmington School District is 230,000 square miles.
230 square miles? Did you say
Excuse me,
230?
23,000 square miles.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's massive.
We're half of St. Genevieve County and half of St. Francis County are districts in both of those.
Wow. Yeah, because I got lost out there.
Yeah.
My you don't get good cell reception in certain parts of that area.
No.
And I was using my Google Maps to get
Yeah.
me from where were we going? We were going from we left you and we went to Columbia.
Yeah.
And yeah, the map told me to take a right out of your driveway, which your driveway is about 2 miles long.
Yeah.
And then I went down to the end of the road and it just cut out and I didn't know which way to go. So I took a
Right.
right. And
Right.
then when it came back in, it told me to do a U-turn. So, and so I did. Missouri roads are interesting because um, there's a couple of main roads, but then there's a whole bunch of back roads.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you know the back roads, you can get places. But it's not for the faint of heart unless you got an old Rand McNally map book because you
Right.
will go for
Right. You lose
long,
service.
long stretches of time where you might not have service and you might as well be on Mars. Um, well, that's what was so. Let me ask you this question: what was the best day of your career that you can think of? Like, what was a highlight day? Like, what was a great experience?
I
And
guess probably the thing I'm probably most proud of is when I was a middle school principal. Uh,
Mhm.
we submitted an application to the uh, state of Missouri um, for what they called a Gold Star Award,
Mhm.
and they only awarded 8 of those in the state of Missouri.
Mhm.
And my assistant principal at the time was Sally Sullivan Shin, and she put together a proposal for us to send to the Department of Elementary Secondary Education, and we received that award in 1996-97 school year.
Wow.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of that.
Now, growing up, and who were there role models or were there people in your life? Because I think it's important. I think from a lot of aspects, school districts are struggling to find good team members right now. It's there's a huge increase in early retirements or on-time
Right,
retirements. We're talking
right,
about 50+% of staff in
right.
many aspects of the education system are capable of retiring in the next three to 5 years. Um, I think it's important for people to know where motivation came from. So
Yeah,
I mean, 47 years, 47 plus years in supporting education and public education is phenomenal.
I grew up uh, knowing that you had to work together to get things done. I grew up in a family. There was 8 kids, mom and dad, and we were poor, and we were so poor that my dad was a pretty smart cookie. He'd Sunday afternoon he'd load us all up in a station wagon, and he'd take us out in the country. And where we're going? We're going to go see how the poor folk live, and we would go visit some people that we thought we didn't have much. They didn't have anything.
Hmm.
They didn't have anything, and it kind of shocked me that I saw that, and I'm thinking it's kind of nice to know that you really have more than you think you do.
Hmm.
But anyway, where I'm going with this is I found out that teamwork and hard work had to be done for you to survive, and that's like
Hmm.
canning stuff, putting it in the cellar, uh, getting all your stuff, all your wood ready for the winter, so you don't freeze to death. We had a wood stove, and I found out that that's a very valuable lesson. Everybody had to pull their weight,
Hmm.
and as I got into activities and in the school business, I found out that same thing had to happen because if you were going to get anything done, you all had to work together and work as a group. And I saw that a lot in athletics, but I also saw it a lot in the school business as far as staff and administration. If you're going to really get kids involved and you're going to really turn the corner as far as having a good school culture and climate, you've got to get everybody on the same page.
Hmm. And that's not an easy thing to do.
No,
Not an
no,
easy thing to do.
no, no.
And stay in the course and continuing and having that level-headed patience that I wish I had that I got to experience with you is like I said, I was sitting there just watching you. I'm just like, man, this guy is just cool as a cucumber. And I get that it was, I mean, I was in your territory. So I guess
Yeah.
I guess if you came to my stomping grounds, um, I might not have an 800-pound elk staring you down ready to hoof you, but maybe a different story. But no, I definitely appreciated all of the learning lessons I got in the short amount of time that I had with you, and I think that you carrying that, whether it's with an elk farm or family or a school committee or sports coach or whatever, it's an amazing. I think you've forged a path for others to follow and continue to show that you put your money where your mouth is. Committing your time because it's a lot of time for a school committee member. I think that's one of the things that I make a point to, whether I believe or, um, one of the things we'll close out with, not to transition, my ADD just kicked in at him, just looked at me. He's like, whoa, he just turned a corner there. But, one of the things I think that we all have to do as citizens, residents, taxpayers, whatever you want to call yourself, when we're looking at volunteer um, politics, whether it's school committee, city council, what have you, we always have to look at best intention. And I think that's probably one of the things that you might agree with me on is, that if we look at things with best intention, meaning the decisions that are made with best intention with the information that you have in front of you, then we can ask questions opposed to make accusations, right? And I think that's something that we have to work on as a society and in everything, not just in this. But I got to tell you, I'm so grateful that we got to do this. I wanted to do this in November, in the barn, but I was just so captivated and so excited and just had such an amazing experience. And I want to thank you again for
You're
opening
welcome.
up your home and your property. You may or may not know this, but I will be inviting myself again
You're welcome anytime.
next time I'm in the area, because I got to get my fill of Lisa. I gotta see my girl and be able to take some more pictures. I put a picture on social media of me with Lisa, and someone posted nice AI, and I said, "Oh no, it's all real right there. That's a real deal, Holyfield."
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but no, thank you for making the time to do this. It's overdue. Thank you for all that you do and your commitment to your community and to our kids. They're all our kids,
Yeah.
and what you're doing. And I wish you luck with the ongoing votes and voting and everything else. I look forward to hearing the results of that here in the upcoming weeks. And most importantly, you're my newfound friendship with you. I appreciate
Thank you.
uh,
I value your friendship.
yeah, having you as a someone that I can talk to and learn from. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that Bowie, my non-bloodhound, appreciates the heck out of you for your gifts of the elk antlers, because he I don't know how he has teeth anymore. I really it's quite extraordinary the amount of work he puts into that thing. So but keep fighting the good fight, my friend, and here in your
I
corner
will.
cheering you on from Boston. And hopefully, listeners here today got a feel for a little bit of everything. The fact that there's such things as elk farms, that Missouri is a great place. And when we talk about, the challenges that we face, I think that that's a great lesson of. My grandfather did the same thing with regards to, growing up. We'll call it poor. And I can remember being 4 or 5 and him stuffing a box of clothes and blankets and things to ship back to where we were from. And I remember saying to him, "Gramp, what are you doing? We don't have anything." And he just very simply said, "Others have less." And
Hmm.
if we always remind ourselves of
Hmm.
that, I think there's a great opportunity for us to help give a hand up, not a handout, for those that have less, and find opportunity. I think you're doing great stuff there. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
And that'll do it for another episode of the Be Awesome podcast. As always, thank you to Adam. This guy, he rolls along with me in the backdrop. Doesn't say much, but he does much. And so thank you, Adam, and ECAT Studio for putting this continuation of the podcast together and rolling out. As always, our books are, we hit the 1 year anniversary with our book. We got some bestseller statuses. It's for sale on Amazon. You buy it on the Be Awesome website. I have signed every single book. I've had the honor to sign every single, personalize and sign every book that's bought on the Be Awesome website. So some of your books will be a little delayed delivery wise, but you give me the honor of personalizing and signing my name, which up until a year ago, the only thing I signed my name on was a check. So it's a much better feeling on a purchased book. But as always, if you feel so inclined to do so, we would really appreciate. We're close to 100 5-star ratings and reviews on Apple, iTunes podcasts, but any of your chosen platform. That helps us. That gives us that street credit. That gives us the feeling that we're doing the right things. And if we don't fit that 5-star rating and review that you want to give, send me an email, josh@beawesome.com, and let me know what I can do to improve this, because this podcast is meant for you. It's a platform to help you learn more about things in my world, introduce you to some awesome people. We've got a couple of great guests coming up here in the upcoming weeks, and just share some things that might make you think about things just a little bit differently. So, in the meantime, if you can be anything, be awesome. Thanks for listening.
Coming to you from underneath a peach blossom. It's time for an episode of Be Awesome. Find positivity throughout your life and work. Just like our mascot rooster, Steve the Jerk.